Greetings, everyone. My name is Larry Williams, and I'm the Director of the Center for the Advancement of Research Methods and Analysis at Virginia Commonwealth University, or CARMA. It's October 30th, 2009, and I'm pleased to welcome you to another rendition of Meet the Methodologist. And it's a pleasure to have David MacKinnon from Arizona State visiting with us today. David just finished up giving a CARMA webcast lecture on mediation analysis. And now we're going to look forward to hearing what he has to say about research and data analysis and careers. So David, welcome.
Good to be here.
We'll start out, David, with the question of how did you get interested in research methods?
That's kind of a hard one to answer, but I remember when I was a sophomore in college, I took a statistics class from Frederick Mosteller, and he had a way of describing things that was really very entertaining. There was also a book for that class called Statistics, A Guide to the Unknown, and I remember I was kind of taken with the idea of how you could use some scientific method to get an idea of what's unknown.
Mm-hmm. And over the course of your career, do you have a favorite research methods course? Your career as a student, rather. Do you have a favorite research methods course that you took while a graduate student? And if so, why that particular one?
Well, I think I had a lot of courses I liked. There was one that really stands out, taught by Phil Enders in the education department at UCLA. It was on programming microcomputers. And I remember he was just such an entertaining and sometimes silly, but he always kept engaged, and it was like just a course on programming basic. Mm-hmm. And I remember that his enthusiasm really got me enthusiastic in a variety of other things. And there are other courses too. I had a graduate class in evaluation research where we used the Cook and Campbell book. I remember just being fascinated by some of the ideas in that.
Yeah. As best you can recall, were there any particular challenges you faced in learning about research methods as a graduate student?
Well, I remember when I started out, it all seemed so insurmountable, and I wanted to be a clinical psychologist, so I had a lot of those classes, and I had some math background, but I really needed to learn more math as part of my graduate training. That took some time.
Okay. David, we know that you were on a couple of editorial boards, including psychological methods, and so we're sure over the course of your career that you've reviewed a lot of papers on research methods topics. And so I'm just wondering if you would comment on what you see as some of the most frequent limitations or shortcomings of the papers that you have reviewed over your various responsibilities.
Well, I think a big one is just the clarity of the writing. Both why anyone would ever use the method, and then also describing the method as well, and just being clear about things. And I think it's also a good idea when you get reviews back to take them honestly and do everything you can and not dismiss them too quickly. But on the other hand, I guess you don't want to let a review stop you from continuing something you're very interested in. But I think it's probably just clear writing and being clear about how it's useful.
One of the things that I've become interested in is how, with experience, people who get more involved in research, how they evolve as a researcher. So I was wondering if you could describe how you think you have evolved as a researcher and as a writer based on your early career experiences.
Well, I think I've had to write a lot and got edited a lot. I know I had one mentor who would revise my stuff a lot. There'd be lots of red ink all over it, which I didn't really like it as much at first, but then I saw her own papers, and they had all kinds of red ink on it also, and realized that sort of as critical as you can, more critical you can be of your own stuff, the better, and if people are giving you honest feedback is really what you want. And generally, I think I learned that early on, and then at some point it seemed like I learned how to do research on my own, how to investigate things on my own, and a way to check it on my own, and that was, I think, an important thing that happened.
Mm-hmm. And so given that experience and kind of your own evolution, do you have any particular advice that you would offer for young scholars that are getting started with their research careers that might help them be more successful?
Well, I guess if you can find something, a topic that you're passionate about or very interested in, and the extent to which you can combine an applied substantive interest with being able to really get into the technical details. If you can find those topics, that's would be the ones to look for. I don't think you should pick one. You should probably pick several, and one of them will pan out probably.
And do you have a favorite research methods book that either influenced you greatly or which you currently rely on regularly?
Well, there's that Statistics, A Guide to the Unknown by Judith Tanner, I think. That's a great book. And I really liked the Hayes Statistics book that I had my first year in graduate school, and I remember reading Cook and Campbell and just really being enthralled by how that was written. So those are three that I think come to mind most quickly. But there are others as well, but those are the main ones.
Yeah. And kind of if you, as you now have been involved in a profession for a while, if you kind of take a step back and try to take a big picture perspective, are there topical areas within the field of research methods or statistics that you think we are doing a particularly good job of or a particularly bad job of investigating?
Well, I could be wrong about this, but I think that measurement models in general, especially the link between the statistical models and the ideas, the substantive topics, I think we could do that a lot better. It really does seem like that's the soft underbelly of a lot of what we do. We assume that we know what we're measuring. I'd say that's mainly it. I don't know. I like mediation, of course, because lots of people are looking at it as well. I mean, you know, I write a paper, and there's Chris Preacher and lots of the authors in the latest issue of Organizational Research Methods who are sort of checking each other's stuff, and sort of having a group of people working on similar topics, I think, helps.
Yeah. You mentioned your interest in mediation. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about kind of what the essence of your CARMA webcast presentation, what that kind of a summary or an overview of what it was.
Well, I tried to both provide enough information so that someone new to it could understand what I was talking about, but then also have enough of the latest things that we're learning, like how the distribution of the product can be used, and then longitudinal models for mediation, which in many ways is really just beginning to understand how those models are used to assess mediation.
Finally, I'd like to close on a couple of kind of more personal questions, and I'm wondering, and do you do anything special to draw inspiration or motivation for your work?
Well, I started out wanting to be a clinical psychologist. As I grew up, people would tend to tell me their problems. So then I worked at a camp for disturbed kids in New Hampshire, and then in a camp for autistic kids and so on. And in the midst of that, decided probably I should do math, because maybe I shouldn't be doing that, or that was too hard. And so then I made a promise to myself that if I did methods, that it would be something that was useful. So that's still, is this useful, is something, a question I ask often about the method stuff that I work with. And I guess for some of them it's still questionable, but I try to keep that in mind all the time.
Yeah. And as you look at your work, we know that you're active as a researcher and a teacher and as a reviewer and with grants. Can you tell us a little bit about what you like the most of those various tasks and responsibilities, and what you like the least?
Well, I like the people, and I like the ideas, especially solving problems that are out there. Like everyone, I guess I don't like committees and all those things that keep you from working on those things. Generally, I'm still really interested in mediation, and there's still plenty of things left to do on that. So.
Okay. Well, David, we appreciate you coming all the way from Tempe, Arizona to visit CARMA and to give what was a great webcast lecture on mediation analysis, and we appreciate you taking the time to share some of your thoughts on research and career kinds of issues. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Great to be here.